The actions that I did that day, I never meant to hurt nobody. And I know I hurt a lot of people, including her family and my family, because we're all going through this.
It does make me feel a little bit better that he has that remorse and that he feels sorry for what he did.
A courtroom breathes like a living thing, hushed, measured, holy in its ritual. People file in, cameras stare, paper rustles. The gavel is the only drumbeat that keeps the room tethered to order. And yet, even here, where law is supposed to hold sway over chaos, the human drama sometimes explodes, not outside, but inside these very walls. This is a story about those shocking moments, when defendants, cornered by justice, erupt, when sentences land and something more than an outcome is delivered. A spectacle, an outburst, a voice from a life of crime that refuses to be reduced to a docket number. The transcript you gave us records a cluster of those moments, and listen carefully to what the courtroom reveals about crime, punishment, and the brittle human edges in between.
This has been overblown,
Y pido perdón por lo que yo he hecho.
and I apologize.
Jose Govea Jimenez, the ringleader who refused to look small. The scene is Columbus, at the Franklin County Courthouse. The prosecutor paints him as more than a dealer. The ringleader of an organization so fear-inspiring that the people who come here from Mexico refuse to testify against it, the record says. Months of investigation, a pipeline of heroin, seizures that amount to tens of kilos, and witnesses who finally speak. Jose Govea Jimenez arrives in khaki prison scrubs. He stands bolt upright in the dock. He stares, icy and still, like a statue that sometimes blinks. In court, a female witness, not shown on camera, testifies about the kilos, the stash houses. He was bringing me the drugs to my house. A kilo. 2 kilos. The prosecutor lays it out. Tens of kilograms moved into Columbus, heroin worth millions. When Jimenez speaks, it is through an interpreter. A clipped apology slips into the record. This has been overblown. He and I apologize. But the judge, Kimberly, the record names her, is unmoved. She reminds him sharply of the law and the consequences that follow. The courtroom judges not only the facts, it judges the performance. Jimenez's measured stare, his failure to dissolve into tears or pleas. In the end, the sentence lands. He is jailed for 21 years, and the judge orders immediate deportation upon discharge. He walks out of the courtroom with what the transcript calls an expression of disdain. He will likely be approaching 70 when he is released. In that moment, the old power he once claimed is reduced to the small, staccato steps of a prisoner leaving through a courthouse door. But the stare stays, unbowed.
Count 2, I will sentence him to 20 years. And that will be consecutive to count 1, and I'm going to require that that be served. 20 years is served. Count 3 already indicated that that is merged with count 1. So,
Dexter Lee Williams, a kingpin who heard the verdict and did not flinch. At the Houston County Superior Court, a very different portrait unfolds. Dexter Lee Williams, 53, is a man whose crimes were carved into wiretaps and bulk seizures. 39 kilos of cocaine on his person at arrest. A trafficking network that moved millions of dollars worth of product between Mexico and Atlanta. Police say he was running a multi-million-dollar operation. His demeanor in custody is revealing. Laughing to himself in the back of the police car after arrest, then sitting impassively at the sentencing. The courtroom waits for a reaction that never comes. Judge Bo Adams reads the facts in the matter-of-fact voice of someone who has spent years dealing with harm. In your case, it's not a mere possession case. You are feeding the addiction that they're battling with, and you are profiting from them. Williams's defense counsel, Wanda Jackson, bristles in court. At one point, she stands to scold the judge, her irritation visible. The judge's answer is one of the transcript's most trenchant lines. Mr. Williams, you're convicted not because I'm corrupt or underhanded or law enforcement is racist. You're convicted because you're guilty. That was the plain and simple truth of the evidence. The sentence that follows is heavy and precise. 40 years without parole. 20 years on one count, 20 on another, consecutive. What makes this moment cinematic is not only the length of the sentence. It is the contrast between the judge's moral heat and the defendant's coldness. While the court lays out the human cost of a trafficking enterprise, the man at the center remains impassive, a tableau of detachment. The judge's words hang in the air like an indictment not only of Williams's actions, but of the way drug empires treat people as commodities.
The judge is biased, and as I said from the start, Andrew Tommy would not give you a fair trial.
3. Wallace Bigger, the small-town pill king who lived in a camper. Not all drug lords live lavishly. The transcript reminds us of that in the voice of a judge who can't help but catalog the squalor. Wallace Bigger, who ran a prescription pill pipeline through what the record calls Anam County in northern Michigan, traveled to a doctor in Sagan to obtain thousands of morphine pills and other controlled medications. He sold them from multiple locations and made cash. The transcript notes more than $220,000. But Bigger's life was not a cinematic spread. It was practical squalor in a camper on his daughter's driveway. Judge Philip Rogers does not let the squalor excuse the harm. He catalogs the manipulation: obtaining pills, moving them into the county, swapping prescriptions for cash. Bigger protests, repeatedly trying to fire his lawyer, accusing the system of framing him. He insists, "I did not sell drugs, and I will not nothing." An awkward, halting defense that rings hollow in the face of evidence. The judge reads a litany of counts and sentences that will keep Bigger away for decades. The transcript records the judge's arithmetic in sentencing, and the bottom line is stark. The courtroom has become a place where small-time desperation and big-time damage collapse into the same moral ledger. The judge looks at Bigger's life, the camper, the excuses, and rules that the harm done to community and addicts deserves severe punishment. In the judge's voice, the law demands retribution and social protection.
The actions that I did that day, I never meant to hurt nobody. And I know I hurt a lot of people, including her family and my family, because we're all going through this.
Aaron Andrade, a dealer held to account for a fatal overdose. This is the moment the transcript identifies as a legal turning point. A drug dealer prosecuted not only for trafficking, but for the death caused by what he sold. Kristen Kutu, the transcript uses the name in many variations, leaves a treatment facility, and 2 days later is dead. She buys heroin from Aaron Andrade. Unknown to her, the heroin is laced with fentanyl. The record says, nearly pure fentanyl, hundreds of times more toxic than heroin. Prosecutors treat the case as historic. The Attorney General calls it possibly the first time a dealer has been convicted of murder in an overdose case. Andrade pleads no contest to second-degree murder in relation to the death. At sentencing, the scene is raw. Kristen's mother gives an impact statement that halts the room. Family members weep in the public gallery. Then Andrade stands. The transcript says he takes full responsibility, expressing remorse and an understanding of the grief he caused. It is an uncommon moment. A defendant who owns the harm he caused, whether out of conscience or grief or legal strategy. Judge Kristen Rogers hands down 40 years with 20 to serve. Andrade shows no visible reaction as the sentence is read. The courtroom records capture both the human loss and a legal shift. The state holding a dealer criminally responsible for an overdose death. It is a case that complicates the old distinction between supplier and killer. The transcript leaves us with the image of grieving family, the quiet apology of the defendant, and a judge who signals that in this moment, the law can be used to punish the lethal consequence of a toxic market. When the gavel falls, someone is led away in cuffs. Another takes a single step out a courthouse door. The cameras file past. The ripple goes viral, and for a moment the world watches a human life distilled into a sentence. But the transcript reminds us, sentencing is only one moment in a longer story. The dealers and kingpins we have seen, Jimenez, Williams, Bigger, Andrade, will have years behind bars during which communities will try to heal, families will grieve, and sometimes policy debates will shift. The courtroom moments themselves, the stares, the apologies, the judge's reprimands, are not just theater. They are a mirror. How a community looks at crime, how the law responds, and how fragile the boundaries between control and chaos really are.